Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another recent reads video for you. So I mentioned in my last recent reads video that I had managed to finish 5 books between finishing the 5th book and being able to film, and I've decided to split them to keep the videos a bit shorter. So these are 5 books that I finished between the 22nd and today, which is the 25th of May. Now I say finished because actually, although a couple of these I read really quickly, some of them have been ongoing for a little while, so it just happens that I managed to get to the end of them around the same time. I'm going to start with a non-fiction book that I've been reading. This is called Strengthening the Soul of Your Leadership by Ruth Barton. I picked this one up when I was at the Soul Survivor Festival last summer. And this was highly recommended by Mike Pilavachi, who was one of the organisers of that festival, and I really enjoyed this. So this is about spiritual direction and discernment. It looks at the life of Moses in the Bible and draws lesson from how he acted and decisions he made and his interactions with God and his relationship with God, and tries to apply that to leadership today in the church or in Christian organisations. Ruth Barton has a background in church leadership, but she now runs a spiritual direction charity which helps church leaders to find direction in their lives and ministries. So she writes with a lot of experience herself, and I found this really powerful. As someone who is thinking about moving back into church work in the future, I found this really encouraging and really helpful, and I don't have too much to say about it, but if you are Christian and you are in church leadership or thinking about being in church leadership, I think this is a really valuable book to read. Next we have one of the oldest books on my TBR that I finally read. I finally got round to it. It's been on my TBR so many times in the last couple of months and I finally read it. It is The Embers of Heaven by Alma Alexander. This is the sequel to The Secrets of Jin Shay, which I read many years ago and reread last year. This is the follow-up. This one is set about 500 years after the events of The Secrets of Jin Shay and follows the descendant of Tai, who's one of the main characters in The Secrets of Jin Shay. So I should be able to talk about this without giving away too much of what happened in The Secrets of Jin Shay. I will say that although you could probably read it as a standalone, it will make more sense if you've read the other book. Amaze, who is the descendant of Tai from The Secrets of Jin Shay, spent the beginning part of her life on an island a bit distant from Sae, where her ancestor lived. Her mother decides to move the family back to Sae, which is a fictionalised version of China. The author describes it as being inspired by China rather than based on China, so draw from that distinction what you will. I felt that it was quite sensitively handled, the story. As I say, it's set about 500 years after the first book. It is set in a time of revolution, so again inspired by the more recent history of China, and Amaze is trying to rediscover the Jin Shay sisterhood, find out what has happened to it in recent times and learn more about it. But she is trying to do that against the backdrop of revolution and war. So the empire has fallen, the emperor is gone, and a number of different military style dictators have stepped in the interim. The other main character in this book is Ilo, who is the leader of a people's party, and it's their attempts to take power and what happens. Both of these books in this series deal with some very difficult issues and have a lot of trauma in them. Content warnings here for abortion, attempted sexual assault, torture I think as well, physical violence, I don't remember what else, suicide as well, mental illness, prostitution. Lots of big topics covered, lots of difficult topics covered, and I felt it was all handled very sensitively. I would be interested to hear someone of Chinese background what they think of these books and how they think it's handled as an outsider looking at the way it discusses these topics, because it's very easy to judge other countries' political experiences and histories, but this didn't do that. And because Ilo is one of our central characters and Amaze has a great affection for him, so through both of their lenses of their narratives we see a very nuanced portrayal of him as a character, which is really interesting really, because it is talking about how power corrupts. So he comes into power with a lot of good ideas about how to empower the people, but actually it quickly descends into a lot of not very nice things happening. I thought that was really well done. I do like Alma Alexander's writing. She has quite a lyrical writing style, very descriptive and evocative. I was really immersed in this book. I really felt like I was there with the characters. This one had some magical elements, less so than the first book. I think that is a little bit to do with the period setting. One slight thing that I didn't like in this book, there is a romance between the two main characters, but when they first meet, Ilo is in his late 20s or early 30s and Amace is 16, and that felt a bit icky. I felt that it wouldn't have been inappropriate for Amace to have been aged up a little bit. She could have been slightly older when she starts her journey, and I don't think that would have affected the plot that greatly. But I mean, in the context of some of the other relationships that are talked about in this book, so one of the other characters was the concubine of the former emperor, and she became his concubine aged 14. So I mean, in the context, a 16-year-old and a nearly 30-year-old is not so bad. But yeah, just when I read that bit I was like, age gap, not comfortable with that. So that was, I think, the main reason why it lost the star, because I gave this 4 stars in the end. I wanted to love it as much as I loved the first one. It didn't quite live up to the first one, but was still very good. Yeah, I'm really glad I finally got around to reading it. It's off the TBR, yay! I don't know if Alma Alexander's written anything else since writing these books. If she has, I will be trying to get hold of it. So next I read a really short book, and a really lovely book actually. This is Always. This is a graphic novel written by Yumi Yamamoto, who is a fellow booktuber, and I picked this up mainly because she wrote it and was promoting it on her channel, and I like to support my fellow booktubers. I don't tend to read a lot of graphic novels. I think actually this is probably only the second one I've ever read, mainly because I don't really have a visual brain, so I'm not that into the artwork or the art style. Like, I don't even tend to notice the pictures that much, and so they're just a little bit lost on me. But I really did enjoy this. The artwork in here, having said that, is really pretty, really simple. The art is by Danni. This was just a very intriguing story about a young woman who her ex has turned up on her doorstep, and he does this every so often. They talk about their relationship and why he left and why he's come back and why they can't seem to make it work. But there's a lot more to it than that. I don't want to give too much more away. I think this is going to be the first in the series, so I am intrigued to see how it develops. Yeah, as someone who doesn't really read graphic novels, doesn't really enjoy graphic novels, I did enjoy this. I gave this 4 stars as well, I believe. The next book I read was a children's book. This is Escape from Shangri-La by Michael Morpurgo. This is about a young woman called Ceci. Her estranged grandfather has appeared almost out of nowhere and entered their lives, but he is suffering from memory loss, and she is trying to help him rediscover his past life and remember what happened to him before he came to stay with them. Ceci's father ended up growing up in an orphanage because they couldn't find Popsicle, his father, when his mother died. So he has a very complicated relationship with his father and doesn't trust him, but Ceci implicitly trusts him and wants to help him figure stuff out. Shangri-La is the name of a nursing home that, when Popsicle's condition, his memory loss, becomes worse, Ceci's parents feel that they have to send him to this nursing home. I don't know how much more I can say without giving too much of the storyline away, but basically there's a lot more to his past, to his history, than even he realises, and Ceci is determined to help him figure it out and help him not have to stay in the nursing home anymore. The climax of this book was just really, really lovely. I don't want to say too much about it because it was a really important part of the story and I don't want to spoil it, but I just really loved the way this book turned out. It just made me really nostalgic. I only have one grandparent left, and she has dementia and she's been quite poorly recently, and it just made me really appreciate all the time I've managed to spend with her, and made me wish that I had had more time with my other grandparents and could have heard more of their stories. If you have living grandparents, just make the most of the time you have with them. And what I love about Michael Morpurgo as well as an author is that every book of his that I read, I really feel like he remembers what it was like to be a child, and that really comes across in his book, that he understands how children think. I think if I'd read this when I was 11, which is the age Ceci is in the novel, I would have really related to her as a character. I think we had quite a lot of similarities. A really lovely book by Michael Morpurgo that I hadn't come across before. And then finally, the last book I'm going to talk about today was actually my theology book club book for April, and because of lockdown we didn't actually manage to talk about it, so I didn't finish it until today. This is Clergy in a Complex Age by Jamie Harrison and Robert Innes, edited by them I should say. It's a collection of essays by a number of different people about what it means to be in church leadership in the modern day, when there are lots of changes to culture and to people's situations. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. I found some of the essays really helpful and really encouraging, some of them less so. I would have been interested to hear what the other people in the book club felt about it if we'd managed to talk about it, but we didn't. One that I probably will go back to, at least to certain parts of it. Each author is writing on a different topic, a different aspect of this complex age we're living in, so if I want to know more about a particular topic that is covered in this book, I will go back and reread that section, but I probably won't read it from cover to cover again. I don't really have a lot more to say about it. I gave that one 4 stars as well because there were some essays that I found really helpful and encouraging and some that I didn't. The first book was a 5-star read, the others are all 4-star reads, so fairly solid set of books that I really enjoyed all of them. I feel like I haven't done them justice because I haven't talked for as long in this video as I usually do, but I think that's actually just because I'm talking about less books. So I'm going to give myself a break there. Let me know if you've read those books, what you thought of them. And let me know some of what you've been reading recently. I have definitely come out of my reading slump now. I'm reading a lot at the moment, although actually saying that, mainly only on weekends because weekdays I just feel like I'm too tired to read all the time. Yeah, let me know some of what you're reading. What has your lockdown reading looked like? Please like this video if you liked it and please subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also follow me on my social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram and Goodreads, and you can find that information in the description box below. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.